You say that you are trying to think outside the box. What I don't get is what advantage it confers to the department to look outside the box in this way. What does it get? What does it get you to have a reporter on there that is not filing to the rest of the press corps and that does not appear to have longstanding knowledge of these issues? What advantage is there?
New audiences, new perspectives.
This is a conservative outlet.
Again,
A friendly audience?
again, I'm not going to speak to, I mean, I mean, look, we can dissect, the cross-section of U.S. media, and we can spend the rest of the briefing doing that. This was a choice that was made to do something differently. That's been done for many, many years, as we all know. I can't say that it's going to be the policy going forward. I just can't speak to that. But at the same time that we're doing this, we're experimenting, if you will, taking it in a different direction. We're also meeting our obligations to provide access to reporters who want to cover the trip.
Do the department feel like, I mean, because something has been done for many, many years, there's obviously a reason that it evolved to be that. So this indicates that the department feels that there was something wrong with that setup, which got the message to
Not
the
at all.
broadest.
I don't think so. I think it's, again, just because you try something new and different, it doesn't mean necessarily that you're saying what you've been doing is wrong. Look, we all know that there's a very time-honored system for how we cover Secretary of State trips. I understand that. All of you understand that in this room. This is a little bit different way of doing it. Again, I'm not saying this is going to be the norm going forward. We're also, at the same time we're doing this, allowing this, we're also providing support for. Can we move beyond this?
Hold on a second.
Who's involved in this decision?
No.
Wait.
I just want to ask a quick question about the Human Rights Council. So it's been reported that Secretary of State sent a letter to 9 nonprofit organizations saying that there needed to be reform or the U.S. might withdraw. And his words quoted in the article are, the Human Rights Council requires considerable reform in order for us to continue to participate. So what's the process here? Is there like a kind of probation period and then after which the U.S. might withdraw from the Council? And I have a follow-up after that.
Sure. So I don't want to speak to the contents of what was a letter between Secretary Tillerson and these NGOs. But I think speaking to the broader question, a couple of points to make. One is that our commitment to human rights and fundamental freedoms is stronger than ever. Our delegation is now at the 34th session of the Human Rights Council. It's actively engaged. But the United States also continues to believe that only UN member states with strong records of promoting and protecting human rights should be elected to the Human Rights Council. I think our future engagements with the Council will consider the Council's actions with an eye towards reform to more fully achieve the Council's mission to protect and promote human rights. So I think this is an eye towards greater accountability and greater transparency with respect to human rights. I'm not predicting we're going to walk away from the Council. What I will say is that we're going to hold the Council and its members more accountable and urge greater accountability and transparency.
So what do you mean by future engagements? Future engagements will consider the Council's
with the
actions,
Council,
yeah.
working with the Council and the members of the Council.
So you might decide not to work with it, but not walk away? Like
Again, I don't want to predict that we're going to walk away from it. I think what we're, at this stage now, we want to try to urge greater accountability and greater transparency on the part of the Council.
Accountability and transparency. Is there a reason why we moved away from the subject that we were on so quickly? I mean, I wasn't even finished.
I feel like we've exhausted it, frankly.
Do others feel that way? I mean,
People should ask their questions. I mean, if Michelle has another
you
question, I think
very
she should be
abruptly
able to ask
moved
it.
away from the subject. There were a few more follow-up questions. I mean,
Go ahead.
if you don't mind.
Sure.
For the White House or whoever made this decision to choose an organization that is not part of the pool and is an obviously conservative website or whatever you want to call it, doesn't that narrow the message and not broaden it? And what message does this send to the American public and the rest of the world?
I think it sends a message that we're willing to look at new paradigms with our approach to the media. Again, while at the same time ensuring that traditional media has full access, and non-traditional media for that matter.
You were asked, is this person on the plane going to have more access or going to have some kind of additional opportunities? And your answer was you didn't know. And that's another question that I have. If you are the press spokesperson, why do you not know?
Why should I mean, the fact of the matter is, I'm not managing this trip. I've been very clear about that in the sense of press access. There's somebody with the secretary who's dealing with that.
But you're the
So
press
with respect to, I
spokesperson,
understand
so
that.
shouldn't
I
you know
understand that.
who's going on a trip 2 hours before the plane takes off? And shouldn't you know what kind of access or not that person's going to have related to the
So
pool?
first of all, Michelle, I'm not necessarily going to lay out what access this individual might have or might not have. Frankly, that's between the State Department and this individual. Secondly, I wasn't in a position to confirm this individual's participation or involvement with the trip until shortly before the trip. And I think I spelled it out, or if I didn't, I apologize. But, I spelled it out as after the briefing ended yesterday, I tried to confirm that this individual was on board, but they were already wheels up. And frankly, they were in the air until almost midnight. So I didn't have comms with the plane, communications with the plane. Well, once we did, we confirmed, and I think we put out something this morning. I'd love to. I'd love to. I feel like, and guys, I'm not trying to move. Sorry, I'm not trying to move quickly away. I think I've answered now somewhere in the vicinity of 10 or 15 questions about this. Let me finish. But guys, we can talk about this offline. This is an exercise in discussing the issues and discussing policies. Respectfully, can't we move on?
These briefings are really few and far between.
Transparency.
It is, and I've been
this
transparent.
This is not
But
against.
do you really want to spend the next hour? Because I don't have all day to answer your questions about policy issues, and
Especially
yet,
when you only
I mean,
have
for
two
example,
briefings
do
a
we want
week,
to talk
please.
about the fact that it's the 60th anniversary of the conflict in Syria?
Yeah, please.
Do we want to
Especially when
answer
we
questions
have-
about
we
the
have
Middle
only
East?
two-
Yemen? I'd
two
love
weeks.
to answer questions
I'd love
about
to
Yemen. Go
I-
ahead, Saeed.
I was chatting for.
Yeah.
First of all, today marks the 6th anniversary of the beginning of the Syria war. Today, do you have any comment where you are with the Syria war? What is your involvement? What is the effort forward? What is going on?
Sure. As you note, 6 years ago this week, tens of thousands of Syrians did take to the streets to claim the right to express themselves freely, call for reforms, and demand justice. And as we all know, President Assad reacted to these peaceful protests with guns, with bullets, and with brutality. And I think it's important to note on this day and to recognize the sacrifice of the brave men and women from across Syria's diverse society who risked so much to build a better future for themselves and their children. We also remember the countless civilians, including many, many children who have lost their lives from torture, from starvation, and from attacks by the regime and its backers. The United States does remain committed to finding a peaceful diplomatic resolution to the Syrian conflict. All of us know how hard that is. We can only look at the talks in Astana and to see how they're struggling to reach a durable ceasefire. But that has to be the next step. And we support those talks. We support them even though we're only there in observer status. Please.
We're a little bit confused as to what the United States is doing, which group that is supporting and so on. I mean, of course, you condemn the regime and so on, but there's been a great many terror acts in Damascus and around Damascus.
Yeah.
You have not condemned that. I mean, there was one today. There was
Aware of the
one
one
2 days ago and so on. So we have not seen a statement. So
Sure.
what is your position on these Qaeda affiliated groups that claim to have your support,
Sure.
claim to have weapons that were supplied by the United States?
Well, a couple of points to make. One is, you know where we stand with respect to al-Nusra, who rebranded themselves but remain an affiliate of al-Qaeda. I'm aware of the attack, or today's attack in Damascus. I think we're still trying to collect all the details of that to figure out what exactly happened. Saeed, you know as well as I do, we don't have the best eyes and ears on the ground in Damascus. So whenever we are looking at any event like this, tragic as it appears. We want to obviously collect all the details and before we make an educated guess as to who is behind that. But we condemn any act of violence, any act of terrorism.
And
Please.
you still believe that Assad should not have a role to play in the future of Syria?
We still believe Assad?
The president of Syria, Bashar al-Assad.
How would we view him? We view him as a brutal.
no.
We view him as a brutal man who has led his country into this morass. That said, it's up for the Syrian people. That means opposition, moderate opposition, working with, obviously, some representation on the part of the regime to try to forge a political transition. We believe that will be a transition away from Assad, because we don't believe he can ever be an acceptable leader to all of the Syrian people. Please, Michelle, let's stay on Syria.
On Astana
Stay on
talks,
Syria, then I'll go to Iraq.
Russia has proposed yesterday a project to set up a constitutional commission to deal with drafting the constitution. How do you view this step, and does it contradict with the Geneva process?
Michelle, I've seen that. I'm not sure. I haven't had a chance to look at that very closely. I'm aware. I mean, obviously, drafting a new constitution was part of the overall process leading towards a political transition. So I'm not quite sure where this new proposal would fit into that process, as you say, or whether it's in accord with or in contradiction to the Geneva process. So let me look into that and get back to you.
And the U.S. ambassador in Kazakhstan has met with the Russian delegation there.
Yep.
Do you have any readout for this meeting?
I don't. He's
any
there.
Coordination
Sure,
between
it's
the
our
two
ambassador to
countries?
Kazakhstan. He's there, obviously, in an observer role. I haven't gotten the readout of his participation yet. Iraq. Let's see with Syria. Sure, Syria and then Syria. Please go ahead.
The Hill reported last week that Senator McCain is very concerned that the U.S. alignment with the YPG in Syria is going to lead to a, quote, train wreck because the U.S. fails to comprehend the extent of Turkish opposition to the YPG. What would be your response to Senator McCain's concerns?
We certainly respect Senator McCain's opinion. Obviously, he's a very experienced senator, and he has broad knowledge of global affairs, including Syria. I think we've been clear in acknowledging that it's a very complex battle space in northern Syria. We have chosen to work with the YPG as a part of the Syrian Democratic Forces, which include Syrian Kurds, Syrian Turks, Syrian Turkmen rather, and Syrian Arabs. So a diverse group of ethnicities in order to go after, destroy ISIS. So we're in common cause in going after ISIS, as is Turkey. Turkey also realizes the threat they face from ISIS. But we also recognize Turkey's concerns with respect to the YPG, and that's why we've set out very clear ground rules about the YPG's role, and we've conveyed that both to Turkey and both to the YPG forces who are fighting on the ground. And we would urge and continue to urge all parties operating in that space to work and maintain pressure on ISIS. That's the goal here. Everyone agrees in that group that ISIS needs to be destroyed and dismantled and can never again reestablish itself. So we need to keep our focus on that goal. But we also do that mindful of the fact that, of Turkey's concerns with respect to the YPG, and we're working with Turkey. Those are discussions that are ongoing.
The Wall Street Journal also reported that there is a debate within the new administration, new people, new ideas, about the wisdom of supporting the YPG or finding some alternative more acceptable to Turkey. That debate is going on within the administration. Is that debate going on in this building as well?
I'm not going to discuss internal deliberations. You had a... Okay, sure. One on Syria, and then I'll... Sorry, one more time. Just break it down. So, Syria, Iraq, and then I promise you, Michelle, okay? And then I promise we'll get to Asia, too.
So Syria, is it still, you noted that this is the 6th anniversary of the start of Syria's civil war. Only a few months after the war began, in August of 2011, former President Obama said that Assad had lost the legitimacy to lead. Is it still the position of the U.S. government that Assad has lost the legitimacy to lead Syria?
Yes, but I'll caveat it by saying what I just said to Michelle, which is it's our decision that he's not a credible leader of the Syrian people. It's our, not decision, it's our opinion, given what he's wrought